Good evening. Welcome to the school board meeting of April 25th. We please ask you to rise for pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Howard, will you roll call, please?
Absolutely. Dr. Frick? Here. Mr. Linder? Here. Beachy?
Here.
Mr. McGann?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Buffy?
Here.
Sensenig?
Here.
Mr. Gerhardt?
Here.
Mr. Claire?
Here.
All 9 members present.
All right. Our next order on the agenda is to welcome our new school board member. This is Amy Beachy. Look familiar? She graduated from Mannheim. The whole family graduated from Mannheim. And remember the name Stadler? You'll know how many of them graduated before her. Amy, welcome. We're very happy to have you. Would you like to say anything or not?
Thank you for making me feel welcome in the first meeting. That was worth being on the board.
Very good. We're excited to have you. When I would like to let everybody know that the school board meeting tonight is open to the public and is also being streamed virtually. I have an approval for the April 25th school board meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to turn the agenda over to Dr. Axe for recognition of more visitors.
All right, great part of the night, learners of the month. So we'll just call you up with your teacher who's presenting you. We have a little certificate for you. First up from Barron Elementary. See, when you turn 50, you gotta put the Riley Butzer, grade 1, presenter, Ms. Rattel.
All right, so welcome. Thanks for having us tonight. So Riley is our Barron Student of the Month. I'm going to read a little bit about Riley. So Riley is an extraordinary first grade learner at Barron Elementary. She's a fantastic student, friend, and role model. And I have a few descriptions describing her. So I'm going to go with your names. We're going to start with the R. Riley is respectful. She naturally follows the school expectations. She respects her friends, adults, and herself. The I is inclusive. So Riley includes everyone and seeks out to support students who are working alone or need someone to play with. She's a great collaborator, and that's probably where she includes everybody the best. So when she's researching animals or plants, she makes sure everyone is involved. If someone needs a little bit of help, Riley jumps right in. For L, she is a learner. So I said before, she's a fantastic role model. She's always ready to learn with a smile on her face. I said she includes everyone. She takes ownership of her learning. She focuses on her reading goals and her math goals, and she lets me know when she's ready. She's like, I'm ready for this goal. I'm ready for a new goal. Right? For E, she's easygoing. That big smile. She has an easygoing personality that allows her to be flexible to join into any group. And the Y, she yearns to grow as a learner. So as I said before with her goals, when she conquers a goal, she's ready to check and she's ready to have that new goal. So nice job, Riley. I'm going to give you a little handshake here.
And next up from Doe Run Elementary, Drew Elbin, grade 2, presented by Mr. Payne.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be introducing to you Drew Elbin, who's our second grade learner of the month from Doe Run. Miss Sunderland is unable to be here, but she's created a video and she'll tell us a little bit about Drew. When I think about Drew, he is just electric with his smile as he goes through the building. But one of the things we talk about as administrators and teachers all the time is like, do we really know what high levels of engagement look like? And what I would say is you have to come and watch Drew in the classroom. He is 100% engaged all the time. He talks to his teacher about things that go well beyond the curriculum. He'll instruct other kids about different wars and things in history, and it's pretty neat. So let's go ahead and see what Miss Sunderland has to say.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mrs. Sunderland, and I am proud to present Drew Elbin with our Student of the Month from Doe Run. Drew Elbin was nominated by Doe Run for Student of the Month because he possesses many of the exemplary characteristics that make up a student of this caliber. Drew's love of learning has propelled him to become a role model in our classroom. He not only follows school rules and our class expectations consistently, but has an enthusiastic approach to learning. He asks questions to check in for understanding, he encourages others, and he is genuine and kind to everyone. Currently, he begins each day with a good morning and a smile, and typically Drew ends his day with a comment like, "Have a great afternoon, see you tomorrow." These may seem like small things, but they are examples of Drew's friendliness and his awareness of others. He is a kind and compassionate young man and always willing to be helpful. His passion for reading and writing about history is unmatched. When I spoke to some of Drew's friends about him, they commented that they really respected him. Another friend said, "He's so helpful and kind. That's why he has so many friends." For all of these reasons, academic and effort, enthusiasm about learning, and a positive engagement in his school community, I'm honored to be Drew's teacher and present him with our second grade Student of the Month award. Congratulations, Drew.
All right, and next up, we have Lauren Rossiter, grade 7, Ms. Barber.
So for 7th grade Student of the Month, when we were tasked with picking a Student of the Month for this month for 7th grade, we all came to a quick consensus. All of your teachers, and your name came to mind right away. So Marin is both an excellent student and a wonderful person. She pushes herself to be the best possible version of herself, both academically and socially every day. It's impressive to see her interact with others, demonstrating both her kindness and empathy toward her peers. Additionally, she's courteous and considerate toward adults. She's conscientious and proactive in her daily actions. Marin is always offering a smile as she enters and exits the room, along with a friendly greeting or salutation. Marin's positive attributes extend outside of the classroom as well. Marin serves as a member of the student council at the middle school. She's a participant in the community service committee, where she helps to plan and organize events with other learners. Marin also competes and performs for Pulse Dance Studio, where she shows off her creativity and talent through a different medium. It has been an absolute pleasure interacting with her this year. Academically, she strives for nothing short of excellence and perfection. Her high standards for herself drive her to work hard and improve herself on a personal level that is much advanced for her age. The future holds nothing but success and personal achievements for Marin. Her can-do attitude will take her very far.
And we have 3 learners at the high school. First one, Isaiah Collins, grade 12, Ms. Troutman.
I'm gonna stand in for Mrs. Troutman. All 3, well, for
A little different.
the high
version of
school.
Ms. Troutman.
Yeah, it's okay. Good evening. We have 3 learners from the high school, so we'll talk about Isaiah first. Isaiah is a graduating senior from the high school's life skills classroom. He's been nominated based on his level of hard work, especially in job training areas such as lunch crew and his work at Crable Mennonite School, where he serves over 75 student lunches and works in the dish room. Isaiah is a friend of all. He's thoughtful, compassionate, kind. Isaiah embodies the characteristics most desired in a parent. Way to go, Isaiah. Funny quick story before we start clapping. Sorry, Ms. Linder. Isaiah in the morning, he helps out in the cafeteria. So as students are finishing up, he's going around pushing in all the chairs and just goes about his day. So he's just a joy to have around the high school. So congratulations, Isaiah.
Next up, Elena Rule.
So, sorry, I should have mentioned this from the onset. All three of our learners have really good excuses why they can't be here tonight. So that's why you're kind of stuck with me. So they apologize. But Ms. Rule here is another student from our life skills class who's graduating and moving on to the next part of her life. But she's nominated based on her ability to face challenges and persevere. She's happy to learn new skills and is always open to making new friends. She laughs. Her laughter can just fill the room. When you hear her laugh, she just goes off the bar. It just brings a smile to your face. She's such a nice person and just always caring for others. But Mrs. Troutman also acknowledged she's always trying her best, working hard, and always up for having fun. So congratulations there.
And third, we have Tori Long.
And finally, Tori Long is a 10th grader at the high school. She attends the CTC for a half-day program in culinary arts, and the other half of her day is spent at the high school. She's not able to make it this evening because she also works or helps prepare students for dance recitals. So she's made a commitment to them and didn't want to let them down as they were getting ready for a big competition. So that just gives you an indication of her heart and how much she cares for others. But Mrs. Garrett nominated Tori, and she's always looking to grow. So this year, she was very shy in speaking in front of people. And so she went and worked with another group of 9th grade classes and just overcame some of those challenges. So she's introduced lessons that include icebreakers and recognizing bullying. So not only does she shine academically according to Mrs. Garrett, but she's not missed an entire day of school since 2015, which is quite an accomplishment, which that just shows how hard a worker she is and the characteristics that we aspire to be as parents. So congratulations, Tori.
I think we should all our learners of the month, as well as their parents, teachers, a round of applause. And now, we have something out in the lobby. Pictures. Okay, unless you people want to stay here, why don't you go out in the lobby, get your picture taken for the website, and they should have probably some cookies out there, I would think. If not, come back in. Yeah. If it's not, let us know. We know where the candy is. Recognition of visitors. Any public comment? Nobody signed up to speak tonight. Is there anybody that is out here that would like to say a few words? Okay.
All right.
Dr. X, it's up to you.
Superintendent's report. A couple things. One, it's been great to see kids out at field trips, a lot of activities and so forth going on. Want to thank the high school in particular last week with some of the issues with the climate and temperature in the building, and the staff and students. Just want to appreciate the fact that they were patient and understanding as we work through that situation. Wanted to share with the board and the community that the fill rate for our subs has gone up since we made an adjustment. The buildings are reporting a good fill rate, and I wanted to make sure that we recognize that because we're hoping that that carries into the next month and the end of the school year. Also, support staff, we're definitely improving with filling those roles. We have one building that for the first time since 2020 is completely full. And again, I just want to thank all of you for making those adjustments to allow us to get the people that we need to support our students in our building. So greatly appreciated. I just wanted to share that as a really positive note going into the spring here. Next item, the school board meeting location change. Just again, saying it publicly that we will be here unless otherwise noted. If we think that there's a need to go elsewhere, we'll let everyone know in plenty of time. But from here on out, we're planning on being here. As if we look around, we can see that it's a good fit and it makes it a lot easier for our live streaming and so forth. New school board member voting clarification. Due to an error made at the last board meeting, we will give Pat McGeehan and Mike Claire the opportunity to cast their votes. This will not change the outcome of the selection, but we did want to make everything completely public. So Pat, we'll start with you.
Amy Beachy.
Mike?
Amy, it's my fault, but we knew that when we had a vote of 5, that would be our school board member. And so when it got to 5, McGeehan and I were next until we didn't bother. So Amy, you still win.
All right, student school board reps, Paige Snyder and Dana Setlock.
Would you like us to stand at the podium?
Yeah, if you could stand, that would be great. Thank you.
So my name is Paige Snyder.
My name is Dana Setlock, and we're both seniors at the high school.
So Dana and I are in a little bit of a unique circumstance. I'm a co-president of student council and Dana is the vice president of student council. But together we are the co-senior chairs of the mini-thon committee at the high school.
So we just wanted to tell you a little bit about what's going on at the high school. So right now for Mini-thon, we're doing our flocking fundraiser, which is going really well for us. We're bringing in a lot of money and it's just really fun to see like people posting pictures of the flocks that they have and just like having fun with their friends.
It's a great way to get our school community involved, and when, especially elementary school students, when they wake up and they see all the flamingos in their yards, they're like, wow, like I've seen a couple firsthand, which have been really fun. So even though that's a high school fundraiser, it's cool to see how it ripples out into the community. Something else we're doing is, as part of student council, is the underclassmen are helping out with the upperclassmen or the senior prom by doing decorations and finding a way to get involved and earn some hours towards their student council membership.
And then lastly, we have our Mini-thon coming up in May. It's going to be May 20th at the middle school. And so we're really shifting gears from flocking and more of our student council stuff to focus on our Mini-thon. And we're hoping for a really good turnout this year. It's going to be new and we're really excited for that. So we're planning hard for that.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see how we've had to take the mindset of having everything at the high school and then with the construction, having to flip it into the atmosphere of the middle school. So it's fun to be creative and see what we can pull off. So we're looking forward to how it turns out and having the community's support behind all of that as well.
I have a question. Has anybody admitted who blocked our new superintendent?
Not
don't
public
know.
knowledge.
It's still a full investigation.
Let me know if you figure out who it is. Yeah, that's pretty much all we have.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Just, I wanted to say on behalf of other Four Diamonds families out there, thank you very much. It means a lot. The kids love it. It's something fantastic that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we have the bond financing presentation by Lauren Stadel.
Dr. X, and good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be in front of you again this evening, and welcome to some of the new faces on the board. I wanted to give you an update on a couple things as it relates to your debt and the financing of the high school project. So we've been, part of our job is to watch interest rate markets. If you've been paying attention to the news and financial news over the last several months, you'll know that interest rates are on the rise. The Federal Reserve has been planning to raise interest rates, have begun raising interest rates, and plans to continue to raise interest rates. And what that translates to is to higher borrowing costs for the district. We know that you have about $20 million or so of remaining financing needs for the high school project. So when we noticed that rates were really on the rise here beginning in early 2022, we brought it to your administration's attention. We sat down a few weeks ago, talked through what that could look like. And it was our recommendation that we come and get in front of the board in order to kind of expedite the process, because I think the sooner that we can get the rest of the money borrowed, the better off you'll be from a rate perspective and from a borrowing perspective. And I am remiss in also introducing my colleague from our office, Olivia Lassick here with me tonight as well. Ken Phillips, who many of you are used to seeing, is at another meeting this evening, so he does send his regards. But the meat of tonight, I'll touch briefly on interest rates is what the potential final phase of the high school borrowing could look like. And so here on the first page is just a snapshot of what rates look like currently versus what they've looked like historically. This is representative of municipal bond rates, and the orange line that you see kind of across the middle of the page is where we are today. So from 1-year maturities out to 30-year maturities. The blue dotted line slightly above that is the average going back to 1993. So basically 30 years worth of data, 20 years worth of data, excuse me. The light blue bars that you see going north and south from those lines represent the maximum and minimum interest rates that we've seen in all of those maturities. So if you were to draw a line across the bottom of those blue bars, that's the all-time low in the municipal bond market that we saw in August of 2020. And as luck would have it, we actually financed the major chunk of the high school project about 2 months prior to that. So we were very, very close to hitting all-time lows on the muni side. I'd love to take credit for that, but we just happened to get a little bit lucky on that. So we've experienced some really, really low borrowing rates for the district over the last several years. And in an environment where you have rising costs for just about everything else in your budget, it's been nice to enjoy some low rates on the borrowing side. This is a little bit more representative of what we're seeing right now. So basically move your eyes the whole way to the right side of this line. This is the 10-year municipal bond rate. And you can see what it's done since January of this year. Basically straight north, we've seen rates reset 5, 10, 15 basis points, or 0.05 of percentage point higher almost every day since the calendar year turned. And so when we saw that starting to happen, we called up the administration and said, hey, we should probably go ahead and get in front of doing this last piece of the financing. And you can see there, we have a dotted blue line kind of across the bottom. The 10-year rate was at a 104 on the first business day of 2022. It's now up closer to 264. And we haven't seen dynamic rates like that in a really, really long time. So it's hard to get in front of rates like that, but we've been moving here as quickly as we can. And so next week, actually, there will be a resolution in front of all of you to consider a borrowing for the remaining piece of the high school, because it is our recommendation, as I said, that you move forward with that last piece. And I'll show you what that looks like after I talk a little bit about your existing debt. So prior to adding any more debt onto what you have outstanding, this is where we currently stand. So you have 8 bond issues outstanding, and you can see the principal and interest repayment schedules associated with each of them. And the far right basically is the summation of all of your principal and interest for all of your obligations through the final maturity of all your debt in 2041. But the more accurate picture of your debt is this next page, which nets out the PlanCon subsidy that you get as a result of going through the PlanCon process for some of your prior projects. And while we won't be getting any reimbursement on the high school or any future projects because there's a moratorium in place and no funding, for future PlanCom projects, you are still getting a little bit of reimbursement from the state for some of your older issues. And so in column number 20 there, you'll see that the district's annual run rate for debt service is just below $7 million, call it 6.9 million or so annually out through 2040. And so with a major drop off in your debt occurring from 2040 to 2041, that's where we'll take advantage of that additional expense line item, being freed up. And so we'll be adding in the new debt upon the maturation of your existing debt out in 2041. Much like we've done in the past with the wraparound structure, this last piece of the high school financing will also be done in a wraparound manner. And I know many of you are used to seeing this, so this is a succinct way. I know it's a lot of numbers, but to kind of sum what we're planning to do. So column number 1 is just what I reviewed on the prior page. That's your existing net debt before we add in anything. The green column is the proposed new issue. So we're borrowing $20 million in, probably here in the next couple months. And you can see in footnote number 2, the assumptions that we've made. We have a little bit of rate contingency built in. That contingency could evaporate tomorrow, depending on what rates do, or we've actually seen a little bit of stabilization in rates that we're hoping will continue. So hopefully that's enough built in, but given how quickly we presume we'll be able to move, give us the green light next week, I'm confident that that number should be fair. So the green column gets added to column number 1, which means that you basically need to get from $6.9 million in annual debt service to 7.9. So we need to come up with an additional $1 million somewhere in the budget. And we show you in column number 6, based on prior schedules that we've run for the administration, putting in place approximately 0.13 mils a year for 3 years, and then a little bit more in 2026 gets you there. So if you're currently funded to approximately $7 million, you basically need to come up with 0.4 mil or so to fund yourself fully for the high school. So let me pause there, answer any questions that you may have related to the debt.
Those millage increases don't include using these are funds for debt service.
I will have to direct that to your administration.
There is a plan to use some of our reserves.
But these increases they're showing here don't include any use of those funds.
No.
You will need to come up with some cash that'll be one time, and you'll see in column number 3 what we're estimating that's going to need to be approximately $900,000, assuming you put on the mills in the fashion that I've shown in column 6 of about 0.13 a year. Since you're not funding it all in 1 year, which no one can really do under Act 1, can afford to do. If you phase it in over time, you have to come up with some cash elsewhere in the budget, one-time cash, to pay the debt service carrying cost for those 3 years. So the sum there of column number 3 you see is about $860,000 of district reserves that would need to be used for that. There's also probably going to be some interest earnings on the bonds, which are not reflected on this page because you are in a position where you're not going to need to spend the money right away. And because short-term interest rates have risen pretty significantly in the past, for the last several years, you've had basically nothing in interest earnings on the monies you have invested. But given what the Fed has done, you're going to be able to, realize some pretty decent interest earnings on these bonds while they sit and earn some money before you actually have to spend them on the construction project.
Around like 1.25 right now, correct?
Beg your pardon?
Rate 1.25 is approximate.
That's probably the liquid rate right now, but you could do better if you knew that you weren't going to spend the money for 18 months. You'd probably get something closer to 2%. With the 2-year treasury being upwards of 2.30, probably you're gonna glean something probably close to 2%.
Okay.
Yeah. Other questions? So the other piece, and I'm going to flip back here to your debt summary. As you know, the other thing we're always keeping an eye on is any refinancing opportunities. And while it may be a head scratcher why we might be talking about refinancing debt when we're in a rising rate environment, We are starting to approach the call date of a few of the series of bonds that you have outstanding. So the 2016A bonds have a call date of November of 24, and the 2018 bonds have a call date of May of 23. And they both have a coupon rate on them that's high enough that it might make sense to look at a refinancing at some point in the future. We looked at this about a month ago, and there were actually some decent interest rate savings on them, but in about 1 week, that savings evaporated because rates were spiking so quickly. So the other thing that's included in the resolution for next week, aside from the borrowing for the remainder of the high school, is an authorization to at least put the mechanics in place to do a refinancing of the 2016A and the 2018 bonds at such a point in time as when we can actually gain real economic savings on them. We reviewed with your administration a few weeks ago a couple different ideas. There's some possible bank loans that we could explore and bid out to see if any banks have an appetite for this sort of structure and transaction. But right now, we're not really seeing that there's any actual savings on them. But the importance of passing a resolution that allows us to continue to explore them is that if we see a correction in interest rates and we get a bit of a dip, if we have the authorization from the board in place, we could act much more quickly. Rather than waiting for the next scheduled board meeting, we can get out to a bank, put out an RFP, say, give us your best rate, and get something locked up very quickly. With how quickly that happened on the far right, the same could happen going back down the other way. No one's predicting that to happen, but nobody predicted COVID, which, kind of caused our market to go into turmoil. So we're encouraging people that are in your situation that have upcoming funding opportunities to get the mechanism in place to allow the financing team to continue to explore the options that may be available to you in the coming weeks. I would almost guarantee you that when we come back to you, if you give us the authorization to move forward on the financing, that we're going to do the new money for the high school and get that locked up. But I don't foresee that the refinancings are going to be working from an economic savings standpoint for a couple months at least. But it's something that we'll continue to keep an eye on and continue to update your administration on as we see rates move, maybe hopefully back down a little bit in our favor, at least stabilize. Because the closer we get to those call dates, the better the economics work. Just from a refinancing standpoint, some of the things that we have to build in with escrows and whatnot, the closer we get to those call dates, the better the economics. So once we have the mechanism in place and the authorization from the board to move forward, we'll be able to move very quickly on a refinancing if it makes sense.
So will this resolution have a specific target rate or below that would allow you to then automatically move? Is that what we're gonna?
I believe
how
it's got
it's gonna
a 2% savings target in, which is kind of considered the minimum industry standard savings number for a refinancing. That's a great question. So the resolution has that built into it, but what we'll do is we'll be in touch with your administration because I 2 is a little low, I think. But if we came in and said, hey, we could save you $200,000, which would be 2% of a $10 million refunding, you might not say no, but that's our job, is to present those opportunities to you. And we can get in touch with your administration if something is starting to work from a refinancing standpoint, and they can pull the board and see if you want to move forward.
Right, but it's gonna have that wording in there that'll allow you guys to move immediately.
Any questions? You bet. And I won't spend any more of your time tonight going over this. You will notice, or maybe you didn't, there's a different name at the bottom of these slides for myself and my partners than what we've had on here before. Back in December of 2021, our entire team in our Lancaster office left our former employer RBC, and we're now with Raymond James. So it's the same team, it's the same level of service. We just have a different name on our letterhead at this point in time. Raymond James is a top 10 underwriting firm, just like RBC was, and they're a top 4 or 5 K-12 underwriter across the nation. And we made a move back in December and January. So happy to answer any questions about our move to Raymond James, but I don't need to take up any more of your time if you don't need to hear any more from me. If you do have any, please feel free to forward them to Mr. Howitt. He can pass them along our way. But you'll see us back here. I think actually you'll see Rhonda Lord from KKLL next week and probably Ken Phillips as well. And they'll be here to answer any questions about the resolution that may come up when you see them next week.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
What day do we have a meeting?
The ninth.
I'm sorry, I'm saying next week. It's 2 weeks. Yeah, it's the 9th. Thank you.
Surprise. All right, Iu13 budget overview, Mr. Howard.
Okay, I don't have anything to put up on the screen here. The IU budget is attached to the board docs. So just because there's some new board members here, just want to explain. So the IU goes through a process to approve their budget, which involves presenting to the superintendents. And then they go through, their board approves it, and then they present it to the school districts for the board approval. There's two main budgets they bring to us. One is the core program, they call it their CPS budget. And that's the core program of services, and that includes resources for organizational leadership, board and community relationships, and it supports the 22 member school districts. There's not currently a membership fee or the districts don't contribute towards that core budget. And then there's the instructional media services budget, and that provides its instructional media materials, software programs, streaming media, courier services between the schools. We have a gentleman that comes and picks up our mail and takes it to other districts in the IU. Consultation and training and instructional technology integration. And so that amount, all the member districts actually contribute a small amount towards that. The general operating budget, the core program of services or CPS, increased 3.4%. While the general operating budget, the instructional media services, increased 4.9%. When you look at the overall budget increase for the core program of services, that was basically all tied to salaries and benefits. So that was what drove that increase of 3.4%. And when you look at the instructional media services budget, there was actually two new programs that they included. One was Discovery Education, Mystery Science, and notable, somebody might ever said KAMI is a Academy. So there is more material that's offered, and that contributed to the 4.9%. The total budget, back to it, is 1.979 for the CPS core program budget. And the IMS instructional media services is 1.295. Are there any questions about the IU budget? Okay. For that, go right into it.
Let's go.
Okay. There we go. Okay, about 30 slides here. We have a massive budget presentation coming up on May 9th. And so I'm not going to belabor a huge budget update, but I do want to talk about a couple of things that changed since the March budget. So we got a large delinquent tax payment of close to $600,000. I don't know why everybody's paying their delinquent taxes now, but we got a huge month, which is very uncommon for us. The last 2 years of delinquent tax payments has been extremely unusual. We're approaching $1 million in both years, and normally we get about 500 to 600,000. So I don't think it's a continuing trend, but we'll take it. Certainly this year is helpful in these years of budgets. So that we were around 900,000 something the last time. So we're at 1.517 projected surplus for this current budget season. This is the fund balance. That basically shows the 1.517 I just spoke about in there. And then currently, right now, we're at a deficit budget of $583,762. And so that's just kind of showing where we are from a fund balance standpoint. Down below, Mr. McGann, you mentioned some of the reserves. We will be using some of the committed for debt service down here. You see, we have some of that. That's to kind of smooth us out over the next couple of years, as you'll see when I put a 5-year projection up in a couple of weeks. You're going to see that we're showing some red numbers moving out forward. Some of that is a planned phase in of some of the debt service numbers down there at the bottom. So what changed? Because we had in the 700,000 range, and you can see there, we had 719,910 deficit. The assessed value came in from the county, and it wasn't a tremendously fantastic number, but we did get an additional 191,500 of new tax dollars generated from new houses and businesses that got on the tax roll between the last budget presentation and today. Made some adjustments, tweaks to the tech budget beyond what was there. And then there's some adjustments to the labor numbers, and that will continue in the next, even in the next couple of weeks. Kelly Martin and I will kind of nail down what the final labor budget's going to be for next year. And so those numbers will be in there as well. The number you see on May 9th will pretty much be the expense number will be locked in. There'll be some wins and losses, but very minor changes, hopefully, unless something major comes along. And if something does, I hope it's a revenue, not an expense. I just wanted to point out the inflation rate. And so that's not a great curve right there. The numbers seem to just keep getting worse. So that is impacting us today, currently, as we operate. I see Sarah's out there, food service. She's shaking her head because it's hitting her numbers pretty badly. And then just classroom supplies, everything else to buy. Fuel is a big thing, as our maintenance vehicles, buses. So those numbers are driving our expenses up for sure. So what's next? May 9th board budget workshop. I promise not to put anybody to sleep this year. I haven't lost one yet. May 16th will be the board approval of the proposed final budget. That budget will have to be displayed. We'll have to post it through PDE, and it'll be on display here at the district office and on our website for public input or any other input. And then June 20th will be the final budget approval for the 22-23 general fund budget. Any questions? I know I kind of blitzed right through that, but all the details and backup info will come next week, or not next week, in 2 weeks.
All right, Dr. Flannery, Assistant Superintendent's report.
Sure. The first thing on my report this evening is just an update. As you may remember, part of the ESSER fund requirements is for us to update the public on the things we're spending our ESSER funds on. And to kind of give you an update from where we were a couple months ago, Tracy Fasek is going to give us an overview of today.
Okay, so Howard, if you could click for me, that'd be great.
Will do.
All right, so you can go ahead. So I'm going to give an overview of the Rpsr funding that we received here in the district. And you may be asking yourself, what does Rpsr mean? It stands for American Rescue Plan, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief. So that was given to states across the country in response to the setbacks due to the pandemic and closing of schools. It's the largest federal stimulus bill in history, and it provided about $190.5 billion to states. Manheim Central received just over $3 million with these funds. They utilize the same formula that's used for Title I, which is based on the number of low socioeconomic students we have here in the district. Each of the allotments that we receive has allowable expenditures. Stakeholder input is required. Dr. Flannery and I held a stakeholder meeting in November. Some of you were present and were part of that, to talk about how we would utilize our funds. We had parents there, some students, teachers, administrators, community members. So there was a large group of stakeholders that provided input for that. In addition, we utilized, we had given parents, teachers, our learners, and administrators, we had done surveys in the school year 2020, 2021, and we utilized information from that also to help us with the grants and to determine the needs. Dr. Flannery has also kept the group updated through email on our projected expenditures. So that's kind of the history of the Rpsr, if you want to keep going. So categories for spending the funds. Like I mentioned, there are allowable expenditures, and these are what we have here: social and emotional learning, student learning loss, opportunity to learn measures, safety and security, after-school programs, summer school programs, and then there's an other category. Keep going. So here is an update of how much Manheim Central allocated to each of these different areas based on, again, the stakeholder input. We were able to look at our needs. We principals and administrators looked at data to help us determine also where we could utilize, for example, like learning loss funds to help us to improve. Mr. Howard, if you wouldn't mind clicking on that link there, it says Manheim Central, yep, right there.
Hang on.
There we go. So this actually takes us out to our website. And on our website, we have this information. And what we were expected to do is to list our projected expenses, also our expected outcomes for the program, activity, or position that we're utilizing the funds, and then the costs. So this is on there, and I've broken it down by each of the categories. So there's a category for social emotional, learning loss, et cetera. And you can see how much and what the expected outcomes are for each of those areas. So opportunity to learn measures down. Thank you. And then safety and security. We had to put funding towards after school and summer programming. That was an expectation of the grant. So there's budget money for that. Summer programming, and then other expenditures. You'll notice there is a to be determined amount there. That is something that we're still looking into, and Dr. Axe will talk a little bit about that when I'm through. Mr. Howard, if you can go back and continue. Great, the next one. There was also something that was called the Rpsr set aside, 7% for learning loss. This was given to us from our state, and our state dictated how we had to spend those funds. So we had to spend them on learning loss, social emotional learning, professional development for teachers, reading improvement, and then other learning loss expenditures. And we had to, again, set aside money for summer school and after school programming. You can continue. These are the amounts in that 7% set aside for each of the categories and how much we are allocating towards each category. And then if you go to the next slide, we also received a small grant as part of this for our ATSI school. Our high school, if you'll recall, is our ATSI school due to the subpopulation of special education and graduation rate. And we allocated funds towards a scheduling consultant, looking at scheduling at high school and staff to attend that training, and then the Atalo program as well. So those are the allocations. Any questions for me?
Any balance left in it, or is it all allocated?
It's all allocated except for that to be determined amount.
That's it. Okay. Does it have to be used by a certain date?
Yes, there are 3 different phases. So there's one that has to be used by September 2022, one by September 2023, and the last one by September 2024. So we have till that date to spend it.
So the TBD, there's some items that we'll be sending all of you in the not too distant future, just for some consideration. Some things you've already talked about, some we haven't. But we want to make sure, we want to try to button all this up going into the summer so that we know where all the funding's going so that Tracy can track it appropriately. All right, field trip, medication administration. Delegation.
So I'm happy to give you an update that since our last meeting, we talked about our dire need for nurses. We actually have gotten some candidates, which is great. Hired some subs and also a new nurse that started today. But we still have that kind of scary time of the year when field trips are dependent on nurses, like you said last time. And if we don't have an extra nurse around, then field trips are in jeopardy, as we are required to provide equal access. So we worked with our legal team to be able to develop a new procedure that might also provide some relief to students who have simple medical needs during field trips, most specifically medication management. So a big chunk of what our nurses do during a day in terms of routine medicine is daily medication management for students. And so it's due to the law that we couldn't just send the medicine with a kid or send the medicine with another adult. There's some things in the way. So we came up with a form that is called a medication administration delegation form, where if a nurse can't go and a parent's not willing to go or unable to go, they could delegate another responsible adult to do the medication management for their child. The parent would be responsible for the training and providing the medicine to that adult, and that does not guarantee that the adult would be a chaperone on the trip. Somebody there to say, hey, I don't want to be a chaperone. I don't want to get my clearances, but I'd love to meet the kids at this trip. So this is a form we're going to start to use. It will also require us to look at one of our policies. I believe it's 210, which is our medication policy for field trips, which is covered in there. But I think this will just be another nice opportunity to be able to give some access in the trickier times for nurse coverage. You'll see more about that in the future. Today was just an overview and an update from last time.
Did you ever check with the nursing down at the CTC down Willow Street?
For candidates. Yeah, I think at this time we feel like we're okay where
You're
we're
okay.
at.
They're pretty welcome. If you come into a pinch to give them a call.
All right, now we'll go into the area I'd like to take our one resignation retirement. I'd like to take that separately. Pam Ibach, who has been the assistant to the assistant principal of the high school for 24 years, is going to be retiring at the end of the school year. And also was one of our first state track champions. So I'd like to have a motion to approve with regret the retirement of Pamela Ibach.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Then I'd like to take, I think we can go B, C, D, E, F, and G.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. And we do have Rebecca Stout. Rebecca here. Rebecca is just professional chemistry teacher at the high school. Welcome to Manheim Central.
Thank you. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here. Chemistry is by far my favorite subject to teach, so I'm really excited to be able to focus on that. And I'm looking forward to helping build a new course in forensics. So it's pretty exciting. So just thank you for the opportunity.
Very good.
Thank you.
Welcome. Oh, no, you're, yeah, ladies don't want to stay, you don't have to stay. Okay. All right. I'd like to take H, I, J for a motion. Two questions. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Mr. McGeehan, you're up. Treasurer's report.
Anybody had any questions on the financial reports? I'm answered through Brian. Otherwise, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the item A, financial statements and budget transfers from March 2022. And item B, monthly invoices for March 2022.
I'll second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And a motion to approve the high school renovation invoices and the next step house renovation invoices.
One second.
I'll second.
Question?
I just have a question. How are we coming along with the renovation over there? Is it on time right now?
Which one? Next
Next
step?
step house?
Next step's doing well. Great. It's on time. We'll have a motion here later, action item for furniture. We expect it to be ready to go for school next year.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right.
Committee report. Lender.
All right, so we had a board meeting on last Thursday. We went over the fields. There's some issues with Title IX potentially coming up between baseball and softball. We've been talking about some different sport field renovations for a few years now. One of them being at the old softball field or moving things. So I'd highly recommend if you're interested in the sports field or what's going on, come to the next business ops meeting because we're going to look at that more in depth. Looking at probably the second or third week in May, but those dates will be sent out probably in a couple more weeks. Would you say, Brian? We'll send out a date here in about 2 weeks.
Yes,
for
sure.
So other than that, nothing additional.
Thank you, Mr. Lender. Dr. Frick, academic.
Yes, we had a meeting on March 29th and covered a lot of different kinds of things. If you had any questions about what was presented, hopefully you had an opportunity to shoot an email or question to Tracy. And she's always glad to discuss any of those items that are listed on the agenda. But we have 2 items for approval tonight. I'd like a motion for approval of the health and physical education curriculum and the approval to purchase $43,864.94 worth for books, materials, and resources to support the K-12 health and physical education curriculum. Funds would come from the curriculum budget for this, and there was an attached PowerPoint outlining those materials on the agenda.
A lot of good stuff in there. I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a question, not a question, but just so we know, on these funds that say from the curriculum budget, they've already been approved. We approved the curriculum budget in the very beginning of the year. And Ms. Basic has a amount of money that we really don't even have to come to the school board to provide to stay in that. We asked to have it come to the school board so we can keep track of it. All in favor?
Aye. Also,
So moved.
I'd like to seek approval to alter the graduation requirements for the class of 2026 from an EEE, Environment, Ecology, and Engineering course requirement to a STEM requirement. Students would have approximately 16 courses to choose from to meet this requirement, and opens up the opportunities for our students. And that was also provided via PowerPoint presentation provided by Josh Weitzel.
I'll make a motion.
Bushy, any questions? On favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Next meeting will be May 4th at the district office, and the agenda will be forthcoming. That ends my report. Thank you.
Okay, Activities Committee, and it's Mr. Sensnick, we got a gem on this. No report because we haven't had a meeting. Maybe we need to have a meeting just to have a meeting. No report from the Activity Committee, which is great.
I have one request. For the board members that can't make it to the committee meetings every time, would we be able to start videoing those so we could see them at a later date since they're meeting in this room?
We could just do the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, that way with the board members that can't make a meeting for whatever reason, can always view it later on.
Good idea.
Yeah.
No, but some stuff you want to do.
Not that, the minutes actually, especially for your meeting, were very good, but I'd kind of like to hear the comments and conversation on things if I can't make the meeting. So
We'll start with the next business ops meeting. Facility.
Academics, that's no academics.
thank you.
Okay, the next general action item is the approval of the 2022-2023 general operating budget for the Lancaster Lebanon Intermediate Iu13.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. And we will sign that contract. Our next one would be to approve to adopt a resolution authorizing the superintendent to sign any and all contracts, agreement, grants, and or licenses with the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
So moved.
Questions?
No, I just want to say this is, anybody that's not sure, this is a typical process. So normally the superintendent, we just obviously haven't had a superintendent until last month. So.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay, now I'm assuming, since we have the agenda and everything that comes out ahead of time, which everybody gets to see, I'm assuming everyone has read the action items with their attachments and would have asked questions. So I would like to then take C, D, E, F, G, H, and I all together.
So moved. Second.
Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
The items that pertain to the high school. Since we're doing a renovation, why weren't they included in the bid process with the renovation?
Some of the items, particularly the technology and the furniture, we don't include in the base bid because it's cheaper for us to buy direct through CoStars and without having to pay 6% architectural fees and markup for the general contractor. So we've done that with Barron and Doe Run as well. And the furnishings separately.
And some of the installation stuff in the past, John has done. John and his team have done.
Yes.
Separately. We wouldn't be able to do it then.
Just in case the public was wondering.
Yeah.
Yep. That's fine. It's cheaper for us to do it that way.
CoStar's bid, they have different companies that do that.
Yeah, CoStars is this kind of a state purchasing contract. It's pre-bid. It's competitively bid, on a large scale basis. We still look at other vendors because just because somebody's CoStar, they have to match the CoStar's price, but they don't have to be the lowest price. So we still take a look at other vendors as well. what this does is if something is 100,000, we don't have to go through the cost and expense of doing a separate bid for everything if it's through CoStars.
Any other questions in those items? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay, now, item J, approval of Plan Con Part K for the 2021A bond refinancing. Do we have to do that tonight? Is that what we do tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just for giving them the option to start looking at the bond refinancing.
Yeah. Well, this is actually a separate item. This item is just an administrative thing. So this was a refinancing of a previous bond, and that bond was for, I think, Doe Run Elementary.
Got it.
And so because we refinanced it, we have to take a board action to file this Plan Con Part K, which allows us to continue to receive the reimbursement for it, since it's a new issue.
Everybody understand that?
Yeah, didn't we vote on that back in December?
No.
January? No, not this, but the refinance.
Oh, yeah, that was the refinancing we did last year, but in order for us to get the reimbursement, we have to have a new Plan Con Part K on file.
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. If we can go with KLMNOP. All in favor? Aye. Motion to approve. Board representative report. Mrs. Walker. Running Iu13.
I don't have much to report. Our meeting was on the 13th. There was just the basic approval of the contracts from the various committees. And then an upcoming event is the 50th anniversary for the Iu13. They're having a little gathering, probably a big gathering, on June 9th from 4 to 7 with some special speakers and cupcakes and all kinds of goodies like that. So that's something to look forward to on June 9th. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Walker. Okay, the Lancaster County Ctc, Mr. Gerhart.
It's always give me the fun one. I went to Willow Street to do a tour. That was really interesting. I don't know if anybody's been down there and did a tour. I mean, yeah. And I walked in the veterinarian clinic and there they are neutering a dog. So I didn't know a lot. I spent a lot of time with Dr. Savin, and the welding and the nursing and was up. So what he's doing, he's reappropriating some area, like cosmetology is kind of down right now. So they're reappropriating some spaces to make that up. And so it was just really interesting. So I'm going to try to go maybe one every other month or something and see what's going on. But it's very interesting. And he said, they haven't had a tour in 2 years. I think I'm right there. They haven't had a tour for our students to see it. I think they start early. I think you can even go at junior high down and do a tour. Do you know anything about plans for the tour?
We can revisit it. I don't know if we've ever done it.
Who does that?
You haven't done a tour as long as I haven't. We haven't done.
Not us. I mean, the students.
Students, Mr. Weitzel might know that.
Yeah, I can speak to my history. I know how we can set those up. So I don't know if we've ever done them here or not, but we can certainly look at doing them.
I just think it's a great opportunity for the students to see, what all's going on down there. It's, at all of them, really. I mean,
great.
That's how you're going to get the.
We have tours at 2 different levels, but I'll
Okay, I'll let
talk a
Josh.
little bit about that.
Traditionally, the 8th graders will go.
Okay.
When they enter high school, just to get an idea of all the program offerings. And then we have students go in 10th grade, is in 11th grade is when they start their half-day options.
Okay.
So they go in 10th grade and then we schedule them so they can attend. And then if they want to go anytime, because their senior years when they would go, normally what we do is we have the CTC come and do presentations.
Okay.
So that way they get an overview of all the full day programs, and then they can also go on tours then. But 10th grade's normally the bigger target year.
Yeah.
But
That's
then-
awesome to see it. I mean, I think it's really important. Well, COVID messed everything up.
Well, and that's the reality. I mean, we just had CTC meetings today, and the counselors were talking that, some school districts still aren't allowing folks to do it in person. They're still staying with Zoom. So we actually had them in the building. And I think, it's nice to get back to. So I think it's just reacclimating ourselves to what we used to do and getting back to some of the practices.
Stuart was excited to get kids down there. Thank you. And then I think I'm right, the third marking period, we had 21 MC students make the honor roll. That was good. And let me think, I said something about the nurses and the field trips, but you got that taken care of. And what else was, we had a Charlie Cycle, it's like a student of the month thing. I'd like to do that once in a while, but I'm not quite sure how to do it, but I'll figure it out. A couple more meetings, but he was the highest grade in the NOCTI, the National Occupational Competency Testing Institute. So that's one of Manheim Central's, so that's good. And I have a board meeting on Thursday, the 28th, so they're keeping me busy. That's the end of my report.
And if you thought walking in on them, neutering, whatever, wait till we get the high school renovations done and the ag and their pole barn. They're planning on doing some very interesting things with live animals. So should be interesting. Mr. McGeehan, TSBA legislative report.
If you've been following your emails, you'll know that the cyber charter issue is an ongoing battle for PSBA and the legislature. Legislature seems to be moving more towards more money towards cyber charter and taking it out of our pocket, but hopefully there'll be some common sense along the way there. That's the biggest issue.
Good question I have, are we seeing more coming back to school next year, or have you heard anything?
What we're seeing a little bit is an increase in homeschool, actually, which doesn't financially impact us whatsoever.
Okay.
So that's one of our long-term things we're thinking about this summer is how to really kind of delve into that information from both ends and figure out, why are people doing that? Have they been dissatisfied? Is it from things from the pandemic? Can we get them back?
Yeah. Is there a list of students that somebody could talk to?
Yes, we have full lists, and that's one of our targets for summertime.
Nice.
That's it.
That's it. Okay, Lancaster County Academy. We have the one action item we have is the approval of the 2022-2023 Lancaster County Academy budget that we have to approve tonight. I will, do I have a motion for approval for the budget?
I'll make a motion.
Second, any questions? It's part of the attachment. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Now, on May 4th, our Cracker Jack executive director, I think he's a con artist, and it's part of it. But on May 4th, he's having a dinner, and Dr. Axe, Dr. Flannery, and Mr. Weitzel will be attending the dinner along with schools who also use Lancaster County West. In fall, the schools that go to Lancaster Academy East, we'll honor them. And we will have students there, and they will tell their testimony of what they've done and what the Lancaster County Academy means to them. And I'll tell you, Manheim Central is, we could have as many as 10 graduates. And of course, as you well know, that money, I mean, that's our money. I mean, we get that tuition or the state reimbursement. And then they graduate from the academy, but they also graduate from Manheim. So that is on May 4th. And other than that, we're seeing real good numbers for going up for the Lancaster County Academy throughout. That's my report there. Enrollment. Anybody, you have the enrollment numbers there? Anybody have any questions on the enrollment?
Brian, one other thing I forgot, if you don't mind. On May 31st, the CTC's the award certificate or the graduation, that's for all the schools. They're different locations. But they're all doing it on the same time. So I'll be going to one of them, but I'd just like to say congratulations to all of them on that.
Our administrative team splits up and covers all the.
Okay.
They're nice evenings.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
All right, the school board meeting information. There will be a special school board workshop meeting on May the 9th here at the district office. It's 6:30. And then on May 16th, our vice president will be doing that meeting. And that's the date that we have to approve the budget to be allowed to go out for.
No pressure.
Yeah. Plus, I may, if I remember. All right, board comments. Anybody have any board comments?
I'll start.
Pardon me? Go ahead.
I'd like to welcome our new member and our new teachers for joining us. And I'm glad to see that our pay bumps have helped with our support staff. Incidentally, I just read an article in my daughter's University of Delaware magazine. It was based on one of their support staff work. Very interesting. All the different jobs that they do and everything else. And I think sometimes we overlook those people. They do a tremendous job and they're obviously a necessity to have. So, I'm glad and hopefully we have that.
We were saying that for years.
Yes.
We couldn't get anybody that we signed a paycheck for to do it. So Dr. X.
Well, in fairness, that was.
I mean, it was Dr. Well, I wanted to give him since he's Dr. Flannery and Ryan, they did yeoman's work. They did, I can't believe how fast they turned it around. We were able to do it the week of Christmas.
He was working on it for quite a while.
Well, Brian, he tried to do it when he was a member of the board. A long time ago. Anybody else have anything for the good? Any comments, any questions anybody has? Another great meeting. And, again, I want to make sure that, I don't want to go faster than you want me to. But again, I don't believe that you need to have everything and go over everything. You're big enough to read it yourself. But if you have questions, that's what we. Meeting adjourned.
Make a motion.
Oh, I guess we have to make a motion. Mr. Linden. Second, all in favor? Aye.